My nephew stood in my living room and told me the bank was foreclosing on my house next week. I'm Robert Sinclair, 67 years old, retired high school teacher from Richmond Hill, Ontario. Derek had been circling my property like a vulture for 6 months. Ever since property values in the Greater Toronto Area hit record highs. But that Thursday afternoon, he finally showed his true colors. He spread foreclosure documents across my coffee table, the same table where I'd tutored hundreds of struggling students over 32 years, and informed me that his lawyer had already drawn up power of attorney papers. I was losing my cognitive abilities, he claimed. His parents needed a place to live, and I needed professional care at Maple Grove Retirement Community. The papers were ready to sign. His parents would take over the mortgage payments, handle everything. I just needed to make this easy on everyone. What Derek didn't know was that those struggling students had grown up. They'd become doctors, engineers, business owners, and crown prosecutors. And they were about to show him exactly what happens when you threaten the man who changed their lives. Look, imagine 217 luxury cars blocking an entire street, 217 successful adults standing guard, just to protect one retired teacher. If you're watching this on Fallen Retribution, smash that subscribe button right now, because what happened next will restore your faith that family isn't about blood relation. It's about who shows up when someone needs them most. By Monday morning, my quiet street in Richmond Hill looked like a luxury car convention, and Derek was about to get the education of his lifetime. Derek Morrison had been dismissing me for 2 years, ever since his parents ran into financial trouble and lost their condo in Mississauga. From day one, he made it clear he didn't consider my life's work meaningful. "You were just a high school teacher," he'd say whenever his mother asked him to show me respect. "You lived on a teacher's salary." My dad built a real business before the economy tanked. Derek saw what he wanted to see. An old man driving a 2009 Honda Accord, shopping at No Frills, living on a pension of $42,000 a year. He saw the modest 2-story brick house I'd called home since 1992. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1,800 square feet on a tree-lined street that had exploded in value. Houses on my block were selling for $1.4 million. Mine was paid off except for $60,000 remaining on a second mortgage I'd taken out to help my sister through cancer treatment. What Derek didn't see was the wall of photographs in my hallway. 317 pictures spanning 3 decades. High school graduations, university degrees, professional certifications, wedding photos, newborn babies held by grateful parents who called me Uncle Rob. He walked past them every family dinner, never asking a single question. "Robert, you need to think about your future," he'd say, eyeing my kitchen. "This house is way too much for one person to maintain. My parents are struggling financially. They could really use the space, and you could use the care." His mother, Linda, my older sister, would shoot him warning looks across the table. "Derek, that's not appropriate." "I'm just being practical, Mom." Uncle Rob is 67. He's showing signs of memory loss. Last week, he couldn't remember where he parked at the grocery store. I'd simply walked to the store that day, but Derek twisted it into evidence of cognitive decline. "This house would be perfect for you and Dad," he continued. "Uncle Rob could get proper supervision at Maple Grove. They have activities, medical staff, everything he needs. The mortgage is almost paid off. You two could handle the last $60,000. Build some equity. It's win-win. Win-win." Like I hadn't spent 32 years building something far more valuable than real estate equity. Derek assumed my quiet responses meant confusion, weakness. When I'd say, "Let me think about it," or "We'll discuss this later," he'd exchange knowing glances with his parents like the matter was already settled. Last month, he started getting aggressive. "Uncle Rob, you don't even have kids," he said during Sunday dinner at Linda's apartment. "When you pass away, this house should go to actual family who can use it. My parents raised 2 children. They understand what real family sacrifice means." Linda went pale. "Derek, stop this right now." "I'm being realistic, Mom. Uncle Rob did his good deed teaching other people's kids, but biology matters. You're his sister. You should inherit his estate, and Dad worked his whole life. They deserve consideration. That night, Linda called me crying. Robbie, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's gotten into him. Don't apologize for him, Linda. You're not responsible for his choices. But Derek wasn't finished. 3 weeks ago, he showed up unannounced with a real estate agent. Uncle Rob, I brought someone to give you a market evaluation, he announced, ushering in a woman with a tablet and measuring tape. She can tell you exactly what this place is worth and what kind of care facility you could afford. I'm not selling, Derek. Come on, be reasonable. You're rattling around in this big house by yourself. My parents are about to lose their apartment. The landlord's selling the building, converting to condos they can't afford. You have the space. They have the need. It's simple math. I looked at that real estate agent measuring my living room, the same room where Jamal Washington had studied calculus every Tuesday and Thursday for 2 years because his family couldn't afford a tutor. Jamal was now a structural engineer at a major firm in downtown Toronto. She measured the kitchen where Priya Sharma had practiced her English, arriving in Canada at 15, barely speaking the language. Priya was now a family physician with her own practice in Markham. I'll think about it, I said. Derek smiled like he'd already won. That's when I knew it was time to start making phone calls. Hook, one phone call from a retired teacher triggered an army of doctors, engineers, and detectives. Keep watching Fallen Retribution, because Derek was about to learn the difference between being alone and being surrounded by family he couldn't see. What Derek didn't understand was that this house wasn't just my home. It was the heart of something much bigger than he could imagine. Since 1992, over 200 students had sat at my kitchen table for free tutoring. Some came once a week for a semester. Others became like family, spending years learning not just mathematics and science, but how to believe in themselves when everyone else had given up on them. The living room where Derek's mother planned to put her furniture, that's where Marcus Chin spent 4 years mastering physics. He'd failed grade 10 science twice before his guidance counselors sent him to me as a last resort. Nobody wanted a kid with a bad attitude in worse grades. Last year, Marcus completed his PhD in aerospace engineering at the University of Toronto. The kitchen Derek's father wanted for Sunday dinners. That's where Aaliyah Johnson learned chemistry at age 16 while pregnant and kicked out of her parents' house. Social services wanted to place her in a group home. I convinced them to let her stay in my spare bedroom for her final year of high school. Today, Aaliyah is a pharmacist at Sunnybrook Hospital with 2 teenage daughters of her own. The spare bedroom Derek thought would be perfect for his parents. That's where 6 different students had lived over the years. Kids in crisis, kids aging out of foster care, kids whose parents were deported or incarcerated. Right now, 23-year-old Kevin Park was staying there while finishing his engineering degree at Ryerson. He'd aged out of the system at 18 with nowhere to go. Every room held memories Derek couldn't see. Every corner represented a life transformed, a future saved, a young person who learned they mattered. The financial stakes were clear, too. My mortgage balance was $60,000 on a house worth $1.4 million. Derek's parents would essentially be getting a $1.3 million asset for the cost of 5 years of mortgage payments. But the real stakes went deeper than money. For 30 years, this house had been the gathering place for my extended family. Every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, every celebration happened here. The students who'd grown up and moved away still came home to this address. Last Christmas, 47 of my former students had made the trip to Richmond Hill. Doctors flew in from Vancouver. Engineers drove up from Windsor. Teachers came from Ottawa. The house was packed with successful adults who still called me Mr. Sinclair or Uncle Rob, who still considered this their second home. Derek wanted to erase all of that so his parents could avoid apartment hunting. There was another dimension Derek couldn't see. My reputation in the community for 3 decades. Guidance counselors at Richmond Hill High School had sent me their most challenging students. The kids who were failing, who had rough home lives, who needed someone to believe in them. That informal referral network was still active. Kevin Park, sleeping in my spare bedroom, had been referred by a social worker just 8 months ago. If I gave up the house, if I let Derek's dismissal stand, what message would that send? That helping others was meaningless? That professional success was the only thing that mattered, that teachers were disposable once they retired. The stakes weren't just about keeping a house. They were about protecting a legacy, defending the value of education, and proving that some things matter more than property values and inheritance claims. October 19th arrived like any other Thursday. Derek had asked to come by to discuss my future, his words dripping with condescension. I'd agreed, knowing exactly what was coming. He arrived at 2 o'clock with his parents and someone he introduced as Patricia Novak, a social worker from the Community Care Access Center. Uncle Rob, Derek said, his voice taking on that patient tone people use with confused elderly relatives. We need to have a serious conversation about your living situation. Linda looked uncomfortable, her eyes not meeting mine. My brother-in-law, Frank, a defeated man who'd lost his construction business in the 2008 recession, stared at his hands. Patricia Novak opened a professional-looking folder. Mr. Sinclair, your nephew has expressed concerns about your ability to live independently. I'd like to ask you some questions to assess your current cognitive function. Derek had staged an intervention complete with a fake assessment and predetermined outcome. Let me save you some time, I said quietly. I know exactly what's happening here. Uncle Rob, please, Derek interrupted. We're trying to help you. He pulled out his own folder, spreading documents across my coffee table like he was closing a business deal. I've done extensive research on senior care facilities. Maple Grove Retirement Community has an opening. They have activities, meal plans, 24-hour nursing staff, everything you need. I'm 67 years old, Derek. Not 90. I don't need nursing care. That's the cognitive decline talking. Uncle Rob, you can't see that you need help. That's why we're here. Derek turned to the social worker. Miss Novak, can you explain to my uncle why this is necessary? Before she could speak, I stood up and walked to my desk. I opened the bottom drawer, the one I usually kept locked. Inside were 3 decades of letters, cards, and photographs. Derek, do you know what's in this drawer? He looked confused by the change of subject. Uncle Rob, we're trying to discuss your care needs. I pulled out a business card. Dr. Marcus Chen, Ph.D., Senior Aerospace Engineer, Bombardier Aerospace. Derek glanced at it dismissively. What does that have to do with anything? Marcus failed grade 10 science twice. His teacher said he'd never graduate high school. He sat at that kitchen table you want for your father for 4 years learning physics, learning to believe he was capable of more. Another card joined the first. Dr. Aaliyah Johnson, PharmD, clinical pharmacist, Sunnybrook Hospital. Aaliyah was 16 and pregnant when she came to me. Everyone told her to drop out, get a job, forget about education. I told her she could be anything she wanted to be. The business cards kept coming. Priya Sharma, MD, family physician. Jamal Washington, P.Eng, structural engineer, Arup, Canada. Detective Sarah Martinez, Toronto Police Service. Professor David Okonkwo, York University Department of Mathematics. Derek's confusion was turning to irritation. Uncle Rob, this is very nice, but it doesn't change the fact that you're living alone in a house you can't manage. Can't manage. I pulled out my phone and opened my contacts list. 217 names. Former students who still checked in, still asked for advice, still considered me family. Linda spoke up quietly. Robbie, maybe we should listen to what Derek is saying. You are getting older. Living alone is risky. Before I could respond, Derek jumped in. Exactly. Mom and Dad need housing. You need care. The house needs to stay in the actual family. Real family, not just students you taught. There it was. The phrase that revealed everything. Real family. Miss Novak, the supposed social worker, cleared her throat. Mr. Sinclair, I think what your nephew is trying to say is that blood relatives should take priority in estate planning and care decisions. I looked at this woman who'd come into my home with predetermined conclusions. At my nephew who'd orchestrated this performance, at my sister who was too beaten down by life to stand up for what was right. "You're not a real social worker, are you?" I asked Miss Novak. She blinked. "I'm a consultant who specializes in senior transition planning. Derek hired me to provide professional assessment." Professional assessment? She was a retirement home placement specialist on Derek's payroll. "I have the documents ready," Derek said, pulling out more papers. "Power of attorney, property transfer authorization, admission forms for Maple Grove. You just need to sign. The moving company can be here by Tuesday. Mom and Dad can move in by the weekend." He'd planned the entire takeover. Timeline, documents, fake professional validation, everything except my consent. "I signed every report card for students nobody else believed in," I said quietly. "I spent 32 years proving that young people matter. That education changes lives. That showing up for someone makes you family. And you think you can walk in here with fake assessments and predetermined timelines and take it all away because I'm just a teacher?" Derek's mask slipped slightly. "Uncle Rob, don't make this harder than it needs to, Fran. You're old. You're alone. You don't have kids. My parents are your blood family. Biology matters. I understand completely, Derek. Let me make some phone calls." The satisfaction in his eyes told me everything I needed to know. He thought he'd won. After they left, I sat in my living room looking at those 317 photographs. Every face told a story of struggle overcome, potential realized, lives changed. I picked up my phone and started dialing. "Marcus, it's Mr. Sinclair, I need your help with something." The protective edge in his voice was immediate. "Mr. Sinclair, what's wrong? Who's giving you trouble?" "Just some family business I need to handle." "Nothing urgent." "Family business." His voice went cold. "Give me details." I explained Derek's plan. The fake assessment, the timeline, the documents waiting to be signed. The silence on the other end was ominous. "Mr. Sinclair, do you want to move?" "Not particularly." "Then you're not moving. Give me his name and contact information." "And I'm calling Aaliyah and Priya. This requires immediate response." Over the next hour, my phone didn't stop ringing. Aaliyah called from the hospital. Her pharmacist's precision evident in every question. "We need a strategy meeting. How many people can we mobilize?" Priya called from her clinic already rearranging her schedule. "I'm driving up from Markham tonight. We're not letting this happen." Professor Okonkwo called from York University. His mathematician's mind already calculating logistics. "I can get 20 people from the university community alone. Former students, colleagues who remember your impact. We'll coordinate." By evening, Kevin Park came downstairs to find me on my fifth call. "Mr. Sinclair, what's going on? I heard you talking about Derek." Kevin was a quiet young man, brilliant with computers, but still finding his way. He'd been so grateful for a safe place to live while finishing his degree. "Just handling some family matters, Kevin. Nothing for you to worry about." His jaw set in a way I recognized. "You gave me a home when I had nowhere to go. You're not losing your home because of some greedy nephew. I'm in engineering. I know people. Let me help." That's when I realized what was happening. These weren't just former students offering polite support. These were adults who considered me family, who were coordinating a response with military precision, who weren't going to let anyone take away the place that had saved their lives. Friday evening, the first car pulled up. Dr. Marcus Chen arrived from his office in downtown Toronto, still wearing his business suit, carrying a briefcase that probably cost more than my monthly pension. "Mr. Sinclair," he said, hugging me like I was his father. "Where is this nephew of yours?" "At work, I assume." "Good. We need time to prepare." Marcus surveyed my house with analytical eyes. This place looks exactly the same. God, the memories. By 6 o'clock, my driveway was full. Dr. Aaliyah Johnson arrived with her husband and 2 teenage daughters. Mr. Sinclair taught me chemistry at this table, she told her daughters, pointing to my kitchen. He's the reason you have a mother with a PharmD. Dr. Priya Sharma came with her brother, also a former student, now a lawyer. Mr. Sinclair, we've been making calls all day. You're going to have quite a crowd by Monday. Monday? That's when Derek said the moving company was coming, wasn't it? I'd mentioned that detail during my calls. Yes, but I didn't expect you all to take time off work. Mr. Sinclair, Priya said firmly. You took time to tutor me for free for 3 years. You taught me English, helped me adapt to Canada, believed in me when I was a terrified immigrant teenager. I'm taking 1 day off work. It's not even a question. By 8 o'clock, 37 adults filled my house. Engineers, doctors, teachers, business owners, all sharing memories. Remember when Mr. Sinclair taught us quadratic equations using basketball trajectories? Jamal Washington laughed. I actually understood math for the first time in my life. He made everything relevant. Sarah Martinez added, when I said I wanted to be a cop, he taught me statistics using crime data. Made me fall in love with numbers. David Okonkwo pulled out his phone, showing photos of his university classroom. Mr. Sinclair, I named my advanced calculus course after your teaching philosophy. Believing in the impossible, it says on the syllabus. Your words. These weren't just successful adults reminiscing. These were grateful former students honoring the man who'd changed their trajectories. Kevin Park moved through the crowd in amazement. He'd known Mr. Sinclair was special, but seeing this response was overwhelming. How many students did you tutor, Mr. Sinclair? Kevin asked. I never kept exact count. Maybe 200 over the years. Try 217, Marcus said, pulling up a spreadsheet on his laptop. I've been coordinating responses all day. This is everyone we've contacted so far. 217 confirmed with more still calling in. As the evening progressed, the conversation turned strategic. So, what's the plan for Monday? Aaliyah asked. Simple, Marcus replied. Derek expects to find a confused old man ready to surrender his house. Instead, he'll find 200 adults who consider Mr. Sinclair family and this house sacred ground. What time did he say the moving company arrives? Priya asked. 9 in the morning. Kevin checked his laptop. Perfect. I'm coordinating parking logistics. We'll need the entire street. Sarah Martinez, the police detective, nodded approvingly. I'll make sure it's legal. No parking violations. No complaints from neighbors. Just a peaceful gathering of family. The word family hung in the air. That's what we are, right? David Okonkwo said quietly. Mr. Sinclair, you asked me once, what makes someone family? I didn't have an answer then. I do now. Family is who shows up when someone needs them. Who invests in your future when you have nothing to offer in return? Who believes in you when everyone else has given up? Marcus stood up, surveying the room. Derek wanted to know about real family. Monday morning, he gets his education. By 10 o'clock, most of my former students had checked into hotels around Richmond Hill, but several insisted on staying. Marcus took the couch he'd claimed as his favorite studying spot 20 years ago. Aaliyah and her family took the spare bedroom, displacing Kevin to an air mattress in the hallway. I'm happy on the floor, Kevin insisted. This is history being made. As I lay in bed listening to familiar voices filling my house, I realized Derek had made a fundamental miscalculation. He'd seen a lonely old teacher in a house too big for one person. What he'd failed to see was the heart of a family that stretched across Ontario and included doctors, engineers, professors, and business leaders who'd spent years proving that education matters more than biology. Tomorrow morning, Derek would learn the difference between being alone and being surrounded by family. Tomorrow morning, he'd discover what 200 successful adults look like when they stand together. Tomorrow morning, he'd find out what happens when you threaten the man who changed their lives. Hook, 217 luxury cars, 217 doctors and engineers, one nephew about to learn the biggest lesson of his life. Stay locked in on Fallen Retribution, because this comeback is legendary. Monday morning arrived cold and bright. I woke at 5:30 to the smell of coffee and pancakes. Aaliyah was in my kitchen cooking breakfast like she had as a teenager. Big day, Mr. Sinclair. You ready? I looked out my window. By 7:30, the transformation was complete. 217 vehicles lined both sides of my street and the adjacent blocks. Mercedes sedans, BMW SUVs, Tesla Model 3s, Audi A4s, a fleet representing millions in combined value, creating a corridor of success leading to my front door. But the cars were just the beginning. 217 adults in professional attire stood in organized rows across my front lawn and down the sidewalk. Dr. Marcus Chen in a suit that probably cost $3,000. Dr. Aaliyah Johnson in her hospital whites with her pharmacy credentials displayed. Dr. Priya Sharma in professional medical attire. Professor David Okonkwo in academic regalia. Each person held a small sign with their name, credentials, and a single line, "Student of Robert Sinclair." The formation was precise. Marcus had organized them by profession. Medical professionals on the left, engineers and scientists in the center, educators and public servants on the right, business owners and legal professionals filling the gaps. 217 signs, 217 success stories, 217 lives that had started at my kitchen table. At 8:45, neighbors began emerging from their houses. Mrs. Peterson from across the street stood on her porch in amazement. The Kumar family next door gathered at their window. Word was spreading through Richmond Hill. Something extraordinary was happening at Mr. Sinclair's house. At 8:57, Derek's black Lexus turned onto my street. I watched from my front window as his confident expression dissolved into confusion, then shock, then something approaching panic. He had to park 4 blocks away. The street was completely filled. Derek walked slowly toward my house, his head swiveling left and right, taking in the impossible scene. Behind him, a moving truck rounded the corner and stopped. The driver couldn't get within 200 meters of my house. Derek approached the edge of my property and froze. 217 pairs of eyes watched him with focused attention. Dr. Chen stepped forward, his voice carrying calm authority. "You must be Derek Morrison." Derek's mouth opened and closed. "Who? What is this?" "I'm Dr. Marcus Chen, senior aerospace engineer at Bombardier. These are my fellow students. We all studied under Mr. Sinclair." Dr. Johnson stepped up beside him. Dr. Aaliyah Johnson, clinical pharmacist at Sunnybrook Hospital. Dr. Sharma joined them. Dr. Priya Sharma, family physician. One by one, 217 successful adults introduced themselves. Each name, each credential, each achievement hitting Derek like physical blows. Professor David Okonkwo, York University Mathematics Department. Detective Sarah Martinez, Toronto Police Service. Jamal Washington, professional engineer, Arup, Canada. Kevin Park stepped forward, the youngest of the group. Kevin Park, graduating this year with honors in computer engineering. Mr. Sinclair gave me a home when I aged out of foster care. He's still changing lives. Derek's face cycled through disbelief and horror. "We understand," Marcus continued, "that you have questions about Mr. Sinclair's living situation." "My uncle," Derek's voice cracked. "Robert Sinclair, the man who taught us, the man who changed our lives, the man you think should be moved to a retirement home so your parents can have his house." The crowd shifted slightly, a subtle movement that somehow made them appear even more formidable. Priya Sharma's voice cut through the morning air. "Mr. Morrison, I arrived in Canada at 15, speaking broken English. Mr. Sinclair tutored me for free for 3 years. He's the reason I'm a doctor today. And you think he needs cognitive assessment?" Aaliyah stepped forward. "I was 16 and pregnant when Mr. Sinclair took me in. Everyone told me to give up on education. he told me I could be anything. Now I'm a pharmacist with 2 daughters who will both go to university. And you think this house should go to your parents because they're blood family? Derek looked desperately toward the moving truck still blocked down the street. You don't understand. My parents need housing. My uncle is alone. He doesn't have children. Marcus's voice went cold. Doesn't have children. Look around, Mr. Morrison. 217 of us consider him family. We call him Mr. Sinclair. Uncle Rob, the man who changed our lives. What part of that isn't real? But he's not your real, Derek started. Not our real what? Professor Okonkwo stepped forward. Not our real father. You're right. He's something better. He's the man who chose to invest in us when we had nothing to offer. Who believed in us when our own families had given up. Who proved that family is about choice, not biology. Derek's parents had arrived parking blocks away and walking out to find the scene. Linda Sinclair stared at the crowd in shock. Frank stood silent, finally understanding what his son had tried to destroy. Derek, Linda whispered. What have you done? Mom? I was trying to help you. You were trying to steal, Sarah Martinez said, her detective's authority unmistakable. I've reviewed the documents you had Mr. Sinclair sign. That wasn't a licensed social worker. That was Patricia Novak, a retirement placement consultant you hired to create the appearance of professional assessment. You attempted to coerce a competent adult into surrendering his property using fraudulent medical claims. Jamal Washington addressed Derek's parents directly. Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, I don't think you understand what your son was asking Mr. Sinclair to give up. This house isn't just a building. It's where broken kids learned they mattered. Where struggling students found hope. Where 200 lives were changed. We didn't know. Linda said, tears streaming down her face. Derek told us Robbie was confused. That he needed help. That we'd be doing him a favor. Does he look confused? Marcus gestured toward me as I stepped onto my front porch. I walked down to join my students and they parted to make room for me in the center of their protective formation. Derek, I said quietly. I believe you wanted to discuss my housing situation. Derek looked around at the 217 successful adults surrounding him, at the luxury cars lining the street, at his mother crying, at the moving truck stranded blocks away. This isn't, he stammered. This is exactly what it is, Aaliyah said firmly. This is what happens when you threaten our teacher. This is what real family looks like. Derek's mouth moved soundlessly. The moving truck driver was walking toward us, clipboard in hand, looking thoroughly confused. Sir, the driver called to Derek. We can't get to the house. Should we reschedule? Derek looked at the driver, then at the crowd, then at me. The weight of his miscalculation was crushing him. Cancel it, he whispered. What was that? Marcus cupped his ear. Cancel the moving truck. Derek's voice broke. Cancel everything. The transformation was complete. The confident man who'd planned my eviction had been reduced to a stammering shell by the simple presence of my family. My real family, the one that mattered. The aftermath spread through Richmond Hill like wildfire. By noon, the story was on CBC Toronto. Former students defend beloved teacher from Nephew's foreclosure scheme. Hit 50,000 views by evening. The comments were overwhelming. This is what education does. This is what real family looks like. That nephew got exactly what he deserved. But the consequences went beyond social media. Tuesday morning, Derek's employer, a property management company in Mississauga, terminated his contract. We can't have someone on our team who attempts elder abuse, his boss told him. The optics are terrible. The financial consequences were just beginning. Linda and Frank Morrison, humiliated by their son's actions, moved to Thunder Bay to live near Frank's brother. We can't stay here after what Derek did. Linda told me in a tearful phone call. Robbie, I'm so sorry. I should have stood up for you. Derek's girlfriend left him within a week. She'd seen the video, read the comments, heard the full story. I can't be with someone who'd do that to family, she told mutual friends. But perhaps the most devastating consequence was professional. Derek worked in property management and real estate consulting. The video followed him everywhere. Potential clients Googled his name and found the story. Business contacts stopped returning calls. His reputation was destroyed. Meanwhile, the positive effects for my real family were extraordinary. The viral video led to donations for a new scholarship fund exceeding $200,000. The Robert Sinclair Education Fund, administered by York University, would provide tutoring and mentorship for struggling students across the Greater Toronto Area. 15 retired teachers contacted me, inspired to start similar tutoring programs in their communities. The ripple effect was spreading. Kevin Park, who'd witnessed everything, graduated that spring with honors and immediately got hired by a tech company, but he didn't move out. Mr. Sinclair, would you mind if I stayed another year? I'd like to help you tutor the next generation. Of course, Kevin, there's always room. And every Sunday, former students would drop by. Sometimes just for coffee, sometimes bringing their children to meet Uncle Rob, sometimes bringing new struggling students who needed what they'd once needed. Derek had wanted to prove that blood makes family. Instead, he'd proven the opposite. Choice makes family. Investment makes family. Showing up makes family. Biology is just biology. Family is everything else. 7 months later, I was grading practice tests for my current tutoring students when Derek's car pulled into my driveway. He climbed out slowly, his confidence replaced by something that looked like genuine humility. He'd lost weight, gained gray hair, and carried himself like a man who'd learned brutal lessons. Uncle Rob, could we talk? I set down my red pen and looked at the man who'd once tried to take everything from me. What's on your mind, Derek? I owe you an apology. A real one. His voice shook. I was wrong about everything. About family, about what matters, about respect. I let financial desperation convince me that I was entitled to something that wasn't mine. I convinced myself you were just a teacher, that your work didn't matter as much as my parents' needs. I was wrong. I appreciate that, Derek. Could there ever be forgiveness from my mother, from you? I looked at this broken man and saw what I'd always seen in struggling students who came to my door. Someone capable of change, capable of growth, capable of becoming better. Family isn't who shares your blood, Derek. It's who chooses to invest in your future, who shows up when you need them, who believes you can change. Real forgiveness requires real change. Are you ready for that kind of work? He nodded, tears in his eyes. Then we'll see what's possible. If you're watching this on Fallen Retribution, let me know what makes someone family to you. And remember, the impact we have on others lasts far longer than any property we might own. Drop a like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications for more stories of Fallen Retribution.